All right, guys, you made it to our Wednesday episode. This is the big one. Okay, guys, and I've been praying over this episode. I literally just said a set of prayer right before we went into recording here. This is going to be the hardest message I've ever put together on a podcast. So I've been praying through this, guys. I'm going to try to get through this without a lot of emotion, as much as as little as possible. This is not easy. Okay, this is not an easy message. But I want to start just like we start every episode of The Line Within Us. We're going to start in God's Word. Okay? So let's get our heads right. Let's get right in God's Word. This is a beautiful story in Mark. So again, Mark 5:35 through 43. I'm going to read these verses. While he was still speaking, and the he word here, that's Jesus, they came from the house of the synagogue official, saying, "Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher anymore?" But Jesus, overhearing what was being spoken, said to the synagogue official, "Do not be afraid any longer, only believe." Love that part. And he allowed no one to accompany him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And they came to the house of the synagogue official, and he saw commotion and people loudly weeping and wailing. And entering in, he said to them, "Why make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, has not died, but is asleep." They began laughing at him. But putting them all out, he took along the child's father and mother and his own companions and entered the room where the child was. Taking the child by hand, he said to her, "Talitha cum," which translated means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately, the girl got up and began to walk, for she was 12 years old. And immediately they were completely astounded. And he gave them strict orders that no one should know about this. And he said that something should be given to her to eat. So that is our scripture for the week. And I really wanted to share that story. So, guys, here's a stat. I need you to know right off the bat. And I mentioned this in the spiritual kickoff. If you haven't listened to that, highly encourage you to go back and check that out, because I really just broke down that scripture in that spiritual kickoff that may help you get a good foundation of what was happening during that time. Here's the stat. 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in a miscarriage. 1 in 4. That's not 1 in 4 women will have a miscarriage. That's all pregnancies. All pregnancies. 25% will end in grief. Now I want you to think about it this way. We're serving Christian men. 1 in 4 men will experience grief as well. But that's not really talked about, right? That's not acknowledged as much. But guys, that's a real stat. So if you got 1 in 4 women that are having this issues and you're a married Christian man, you're part of that number. And here's the thing. I'm part of that number. I'm the 1 in 4. Okay? And I'll tell you this. There is no pain like kid pain. Bottom line. So I got 2 stories I'm going to share with you. And then after that, guys, this is not just a pity party for Chris. I actually got 10 tips that you can share with guys who are struggling with this. If maybe this has happened to them in their life and they need some encouragement. Maybe this happens in the future and you remember this podcast. I encourage you to go back to it and use it. Send it. Learn from it, because this may help you help them and be there for them. Okay? So the first story, my wife and I, we got married in 2017, and we wanted to have a baby. You know, I have 2 children from a previous marriage, and 2 beautiful daughters. And hey, Chloe and Ava, if you guys maybe listen to this one. And when Rebecca, my wife, and we got married, we wanted to have some children of our own. So we were blessed. God blessed us. We were able to get pregnant. Things were going good. We actually went to the first ultrasound. It was, I think, the 6 or 7 week ultrasound. Things looked great. And my wife, she had a follow-up appointment. And it was an early follow-up appointment. It's like a 9-week appointment. And I was at work. I told her, so do you want me to go with you? She said, no, this is just a follow-up. We're not checking anything or anything like that with ultrasound. So just go to work. And I got the phone call. She called me at work and she's like, we've lost our baby. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What happened? And She told me it was what's called I may get this wrong, but a missed miscarriage. Okay, so my wife never had the actual signs of a miscarriage. There was never any blood or anything like that. It was a missed miscarriage. So we lost our baby, and we had to go do a procedure. That was called a DNC procedure, and it's an outpatient thing, but we had to go have that done, and just remember the hurt, and we named our baby, and his name is Judah. My wife is adamant that it was a boy. I'm a 3-time girl dad, but it was a boy. So I went along with her. Who am I to argue that? So we lost him, and I will talk about a little bit later how we processed that grief and some things we did to celebrate his life, and that really helped us. And being that early in the pregnancy, it didn't make it I wouldn't say any easier. It was just different. Okay. It was a different pain that we felt, but it was still a very real pain. We had struggled to even get pregnant, and then we got there, and then that happened. So we just, that was a tough one for us to work through together. And then we had some time to heal. We took some time to make sure her body had healed, properly. And then we said, you know what? We trust God. We don't know why what happened to Judah happened, but we're going to trust him. And we want to get pregnant again. So we were able to get pregnant. And this time, it didn't take us quite as long from what I remember, but we got pregnant. And I didn't miss any. There were no appointments missed, anything like that, right? I mean, I was there at every one of them. And our daughter, we found out she was a girl. I think we found out around 14 weeks that it was a girl. And being a girl dad, I was thrilled. Obviously, we named her Faith. Faith May was her name, Mae, and we were excited. Like our kids were excited. Our daughters were excited. It was a fun time because again, this was in COVID. Okay, so this was in the middle of COVID. Everything happened, and so from when COVID hit, you couldn't have the typical baby showers and things like that. So we had to modify, and we were blessed, beyond blessed by our church did a thing for us. Our families did things to try to make it special because that was in the middle of the lockdown. I mean, there's not many people were traveling. We weren't going out. I remember going out to get groceries, just decked out with the mask, all the gloves. You didn't notice when the pandemic first started, and I had a pregnant wife, right? And so, that was all just different type of experiences. And we took a lot of pictures and things like that of my wife through the pregnancy, and just celebrating the life that was to come, the life that was we were so excited for. We had the nursery. I repainted the nursery. We found some great furniture, and we had everything set up right. I mean, the nursery was beautiful. I mean, beautiful. We had a picture that had Faith, like her name was on it. It was beautiful, guys. I mean, you know how guys are. We just want to do stuff, right? So for me, just doing stuff was prepping the nursery and getting ready and getting that whole, and then then the wives, they usually go into that mother hen, just getting the nest ready and all that. So we were there. Okay, so we were due in May, and on I believe it was May 11th. So we went to bed that night, and my wife woke up. And she woke me up. I remember that. And she says, I'm not feeling Faith moves. She's not kicking me or anything. And Faith was very active, baby. I mean, I could sit there and put my head on my wife's stomach, and she would kick me. And you'd see her stomach move. I mean, this little girl was all over the place, right? She was wide open all the time. So I told her, I said, our daughters are upstairs sleeping. She's like, I tell you what, I'm going to go to the hospital just to check, make sure she's okay. You stay here with the girls, and I'm sure, everything will be fine. And then I'll come back and if they want to keep me to induce me, because again, guys, we were at the due date. We were there. Okay. So this is not like this was 20 something weeks. Like we were literally at the due date. The bags were already packed, all that stuff. So I lay back down and I think I even dozed back off and my phone rang that night and it was my wife, Rebecca. And I'll never forget the words she said. She said, I said, hey. And she said, we lost faith. And told you guys I won't get emotional, but I lied. So when she said that we lost faith, I'm here at the house with my kids. What do? I mean, I just cried out to God. I remember laying on the floor in the bathroom, tears soaked, and just, you ask the questions, why? What is this real? Does it feel? Is this really happening? And you just don't know. I mean, there's this feeling of just, what do? There's nothing I can do. And so I was able to get my parents on the phone. They drove over immediately. And when they got there, my dad, we got hugs and all that stuff. I mean, we had the things you don't think about. Like we had the pack and play was already in our room, right? I mean, everything, the car seats, all that stuff was there. So I went to my dad drove me to the hospital and dropped me off so they could come back and be with our daughters middle of the night. So the girls never woke up, right? So when my daughters woke up in the morning, they had school. So they actually, they woke up, dad and their stepmom was gone. So, and grandparents were there, and they're like, what's going on? And so I told my parents, I said, don't tell the girls. I have to be the one that tells my daughters that they lost their sister. So they, again, he dropped me off and went into the hospital, and that's where I saw Becca for the first time, and since that phone call. So when you're in there in the hospital and things like this, it's a different, much different feel. There's no monitors or anything like that for the baby. They're just basically monitoring your wife, and they're making sure that she's healthy. And then they have to start inducing and having that whole process, right? Because her body hadn't started the process of actually going into labor yet, right? It wasn't exactly that time. So they started the induction process. That took forever. I mean, it was just complete agony. Okay. It took us about 24 hours to finally get to the point of, being to the point where we can start pushing. And then the delivery, it was agony, excruciating, unbelievable pain that we had to go through, and that my wife had to go through. And as a husband, I'm just standing there literally helpless. Can't do anything for her. We prayed for miracles. I had my Bible open, went straight to, I said, we're going to have a Jairus moment. We kept calling, we claimed it. We're going to have a Jairus moment. This is going to turn out to be a great, the doctors are wrong. I don't care what your technology says. You're wrong. My daughter's going to come out and she's going to cry. And so the doctors prepared us the best they could. And Faith was born. And she entered the world. And I told my wife, I said, as soon as she comes out, I'm praying over her to Lithia come. And I remember standing over her and holding her. The doctors are there with her, praying that over and over and over. And my tears were just dropping down on her. And she wouldn't open her eyes. She was beautiful, guys. I mean, 9 pounds, beautiful baby, head full of hair. I mean, a lot more hair than I got, right? That's not too hard, but just beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but just wouldn't open her eyes. And so we helped her get, I helped dress her for the first time, and all the stuff that you do, when you have a baby. And just remember that feeling of she was very warm when she was born, very, very warm. It's the way a baby should be, right? And so I went and to my wife and was able to show her faith, and they had to finish up some things with my wife to get her, to get her right. If you guys have been through deliveries and all that stuff, you know what that's like. But I will never forget how quiet the delivery room was. Guys, delivery rooms are supposed to be chaotic and crazy. They're supposed to be screaming and yelling and you did this to me and all that stuff, right? And at the end of it, you should hear a baby crying. We didn't have that. It was quiet. And I remember I didn't like it. That quietness was very difficult. It brought a sense of reality that this is really happening. So anyway, I got faith there. My wife is finally, finished from the delivery part. So we're able to be together. And we had 12 hours. We had that night to be with her. And I remember very well that night. It'll be a night I'll never forget, and things that we did. And I'm telling you guys this stuff because if you're ever in these moments, it would have helped me to have heard a story like this going into this, but I didn't. So hopefully nobody ever has this issue, and this is just a sad story. But with the 1 in 4 stat, I think it's a story that could hopefully uplift people. So I remember that 12 hours. What do we do? Well, we sang to her. I remember very well singing to her. And I sang her Victory in Jesus. And it was the hardest song I ever sang. I'm a terrible singer. My wife is the singer. I'm horrible. But I just wanted to sing to my daughter and talk to her. And I told her about her family and her crazy sisters and all the plans that they had to do with her and all that stuff, right? And we took pictures with her, obviously. And just think about this. If you just had 12 hours to make memories, what do you do? What do you do? I wasn't sure. So we just did the best we could. And they made the hospital we were at, they made some handprint and footprints of her and like these molded things. So they're really awesome. They did a phenomenal job of taking care of us and loving on us. And they're special, just so you guys know, they're special carriers that you have for babies that pass. That basically are like a refrigeration type thing where you lay them on it. It's basically delaying the decaying. Okay. So it's a way that you can spend some time with your baby. And I'm very appreciative of that. But I just remember some of the last things I remember, or how cold she was. And I don't like that part. I didn't like the cold part, but I wouldn't trade those 12 hours for anything. Because as hard as it was good for my wife and I to have that time as a couple together with our baby. So we had that, and then, saying goodbye to her and all that stuff. Complete agony. I'm not gonna lie, just complete agony. It sucks. So we left the hospital and we were able to leave and my daughters, we hadn't talked to them because I can't tell them this stuff over the phone. I'm not that kind of man. I'm a very, in many ways, a guy's guy. I don't mind hitting the hard stuff head on. And for them, I wanted to hit the hard stuff directly with them. I didn't want to sugarcoat it. I didn't want them to hear it through third party. They needed to hear it from their dad and from their stepmom. So we got home and they came up to the car. So excited. so excited. And because they were expecting to see their sister, right? I mean, why should they think any differently? And it was an empty car seat. And they had questions and they were like, what is going on? And so we went outside and there's a little tree that's outside. And here's where I told you we did in the memory of Judah, we actually planted a little Japanese maple in our front yard. And we never told our girls that. That was the reason. They just thought we just planted a little tree. So we went out and we made a circle around that tree. And I started off by, just telling them why that tree was there. And again, I'm going off a lot of this stuff by memory, so I may have some of it wrong. And then we just told them that their sister had died, and that she was with Jesus, and we told them this immediately. I mean, they broke down. My oldest daughter took off running. Just grief, right? I mean, it's just kids' grief too, right? So I mean, we had to pull together and unite as a family. And I can only tell you guys that prayer, family, our church family, in those moments, that's all you got. And you just lean all you can on the Lord. And that's what me and my wife did. We leaned on each other, and together we were leaning on Him. He is the only reason we got through that. And so then, we're sitting there. A week or so it went by, and we had our daughter cremated, and by the way, she's in a little urn, and that urn's in my pocket right now. I wanted her to be with me while I was doing this recording. So about a week later, we're sitting there, and my wife and I will take a fun story. My wife and I met because of a dog. Okay. It was a dog. My dad had worked with my wife. She got a new puppy. It was a little Yorkie. His name was Maverick. And he had pictures of the dog on his computer. I was over at his house one day. He's like, you need to look at these pictures of this dog. I'm like, I don't care about this dog. He's like, no, look at the pictures of the dog. So about the third picture, it was my wife holding the dog. And that's when I immediately felt, I was like, all right, who is that? So this dog ultimately was the reason that my wife and I met. And again, we lost our baby. 1 week to the day, I woke up and Maverick had died. And I remember just standing there shaking and calling my dad saying, I don't want Becca to wake up, because I have no idea how to tell her that her dog has died. And it was just, I can't explain the emotions. So the funeral home had actually called, and I was to pick up Faith that day. So I take Maverick, our Yorkie that just passed, and I called, and we found a one of those cremation services for animals. And I remember, so I took Maverick, I wrapped him up, we said our goodbyes. I had to tell our daughters that they lost their dog. It was just, when you think it can't get any worse, right? And I remember going to the funeral home, and I met the guy who does the pet cremation at the real funeral home. So I'm picking up my daughter, dropping off my dog, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, this is the worst country song on the planet, right? It's never going to be a country song that's any worse than this. So it was just a surreal moment, and I don't know, why, and then, a week or two after that, my wife actually lost her job. I mean, it was just, we lost our baby, we lost our dog, she lost her job in a matter of about 3 or 4 weeks. Talk about your Job moments, right? And when all these things hit, all you can do is cling. You have to cling to Him. Because you talk about broken as a man who wants to fix stuff and wants to help and be, We want to be in charge. We want to do something. There's nothing I can do. Our baby died. Our dog died. My wife got fired. Are you kidding me? Like what? Just like literally just crying out to the Lord. So, we made, just to keep on with the story, guys, we made it through that obviously together. And, she got a job that's a million times better, that the people actually care. They love her. Guys, she was working at a church, and the church where she worked, they never acknowledged the fact that we had a daughter. And so that just tells you have to be careful wherever you're at, because, Satan's everywhere. But God took us through that, took her through that, because now she's in the field that she loves. She's surrounded by women that love her and that coworkers that love her. And she gets to do these amazing things in HR, and she's in her happy place. So that part did turn out well. We actually, we made a shadow box for Faith, and that's in our living room. The shadow box there. Remember, I told you guys about the hand and the feet imprints. They're in the living room too. So we have this place, for Faith. And then we took a trip to the beach as a family, and we took Faith with us, and we had a really good time at the beach, kind of just decompressing some. And we had a little service for her. It was just the four of us, our family, with her there. And we took a lot of pictures, and it was awesome. It was awesome. And then, I remember, the nursery. We just shut the door. We shut the door. We didn't want to do anything to the nursery. We trusted, and we felt that God, we still love you. We love you more than ever. We've been through tragedy. We've been through all this stuff, but we are not going to turn our back on you. And we became even closer as a family through this. And then I just remember, so the shadow box is done. We did the beach trip, the nursery, we shut that door. And then we had her 1-year birthday. And that was probably one of the hardest days. So her birthday is actually May 13th. I'm actually recording this in early May right now. So her birthday, we'll have her 2-year birthday here in a few days. And I wanted to do this recording before her birthday. Just, I don't know why, guys, because I'm weird, but I wanted to do this. So, but her 1-year birthday, we had a cake and, one candle, and, we tried to make it special. And it was more for the kids, but it was for Rebecca and I too, so we could process that together. And we still have moments where she and I will just look at each other and we'll just say, I miss Faith. And I'll just tell her I miss her too. And, for that year, I worked remotely from home. And the nursery is across the hall from my studio where we do recordings and things like that. I just remember so vividly always looking over to that nursery and that door being shut. And it was just a constant reminder. Because I don't know if that was healthy or not, but it was a constant reminder. And guys, it was, again, something that I pray nobody ever goes through. And so when I started thinking through that and the story and Faith and how to honor her and things that we did, I made up a list. I got 10 things, guys. So I won't go through them. I'm not going to take a long time to go through these, but I want to give you 10 things to think about if you're ever one of those 1 in 4. If this ever happens, and you're one of those 1 in 4, this may help you. So I'm going to give you a couple things to think about. I'm going to walk through this list right now. Number one, grieve with your wife. I know it sounds simple. Too many guys, we try to hold the emotions in. You need to grieve. She needs to see you grieve. There is something about a couple, when they grieve together, they grow together. I don't want any of you guys to ever have to grieve. I know a close personal brother. I love him very much, and he listens to this podcast as consistent as anybody out there. And he lost his son. And I've watched him going through grief. He's going through grief right now. And that grief will never leave. And, I didn't get to raise my daughter the way he raised his son. I can't imagine. I just know the hurt and the pain that I feel. You got to grieve. So, Stephen, if you're listening, I love you, brother. And Joy, I love you. We constantly pray for you guys. So, grieve with your wife, guys. You got to grieve with her. Number 2, name your baby. You need to name them. Give them a name. They deserve it. Judah, even though we lost Judah so early, 9 weeks, he's Judah. He's not, you know why? Because at the moment of conception, he was beautifully and wonderfully made, and God was weaving him together. He had a spirit. He had a soul. All that stuff at the moment of conception. Don't get that mixed up. Now, this is not going to be a big podcast on abortion and all that stuff, guys. You guys know what the Bible says. I don't need to take you there. Name your baby. Give him a name. So for us, it's Judah and Faith. Number 3, protect your wife from others. Now, what am I talking about here? There's going to be certain times where people think that you just need to move on. Or maybe you just don't talk about it as much or shouldn't bring it up. No. As a man, you need to step in and hammer that right there. And I had a real good friend. His name is Steve. He called me. He had the same thing happen to him. He actually called me right after it happened with Faith, and he found out. And this was his advice to me. Protect your wife. And I remember that. And I want to share that and pass that along to you guys. Protect your wife. So, Steve, you happen to be listening. Thank you, my brother, for sharing that piece of advice. You've been a wonderful friend, and I'll continue to pray blessings for you and your family. So, protect her. Number 4, you need to recognize, guys, that existing kids, kids in the house, they process grief differently, and you need to help them through this. Maybe needs to be some counseling involved. No, but you got to recognize kids process grief differently than adults. So just going in knowing that's going to help you, because you need to help them. Now, I know you have to grieve. You have to do it. You have to grieve yourself. But as a dad, as a lion, you need to help them grieve. They need to see you cry, to know that it's okay for them to cry. Be vulnerable here, guys, but make sure your kids feel that it's okay to grieve. And help them. Like for us, we had some projects we did. Our girls wanted to make pictures for Faith. They made a little pictures for her. They made a frame thing for Maverick, our puppy dog, because again, they had so much loss in those literally week, and that helped them. And those frames are in their rooms right now. We had a picture made of Faith and all that stuff, and that stuff's there. And they helped with making the shadow box, and they made little notes. And still to this day, if I read those notes, I start crying. So those notes they were very raw, but they were real, but it helped them process. Now, kids do process grief a lot faster, usually, than adults, so they're more resilient. But just recognize that your kids, they process grief differently. So be there for them. Number 5, you need to recognize that your extended family, they're going to grieve. So reach out to them, check on them, make sure they're okay. Grandparents, my wife, her mother in particular, how she took this is her first grandbaby that she was expecting. A biological. Of course, she's a grandmother to Chloe and Ava, but this was her first biological, and this was very difficult for her, her sisters, and her brother, her dad, and then my family. We'd never experienced things like that. Until my mom, she reminded, we were talking, my brother, my younger brother, he was a twin. And his twin was stillborn. So I was able to talk to my mom about that and just, some of the emotions that she had. So we were able to learn from that. And guys, I forgot to even mention, we never found out what happened. They think it was something with her umbilical cord, like a blood clot or something, but we just trusted it. That's what it was. That's what it looked like it was. We didn't want to put through any testing or things like that, but that ultimately ended up being what it was. But this idea here of your extended family, they're gonna grieve. You need to help and just be there for them. Okay, just don't forget about them. 6th tip: set boundaries, so that you're not the grief counselor for others. You need to set some boundaries here, guys. Okay, because I mean, sometimes people when they grieve and they reach out, it can be all intended well, but you know what? Sometimes we don't need those messages. And you need to protect your wife, again, going back to rule number 1, but set some boundaries. And if it keeps going on with certain people, you just need to be pretty direct. There's nothing wrong with being direct. You do it in love. I'm not saying be a jerk and go out there or hit people between the eyes, but do set some boundaries. Be the man, be the lion, and make sure people understand that you ain't their counselor. You're here for the core group, the core family, but set some boundaries. And again, a lot of stuff is meant to it's meant in love. It just, God's got a plan, things like that. I get it. But when you're hurting, you just lost your child, you don't need to hear that kind of stuff. Okay. You just need to know that people love you and they're praying for you. It's the best thing you can ever say to anybody who's going through a loss is that I love you and I'm praying for you. Right. 7th tip: make a tribute or memorial items. Okay, that we did that for Judah. Again, we planted that tree. For Faith, we did the same thing. We have the shadow box, all her stuff. We have a faith box with all the cards and stuff like that we got. We planted. Our church just blessed us with bushes, a rose bush, some different flowers, a little tree. I mean, all these different things that we were able to plant and as a memorial for her. And I remember I literally just went out the other day and looked at her rose bush. It's beautiful. It's got pink roses. And that's a constant reminder, every year of just her memory. So I'm really big. I think that stuff helped us process the grief. So, I mean, tributes, memorial items, I think that stuff really does. And in the moment, you may not think it helps, but I know for me personally, going back now, coming up on 2 years, and pulling that stuff out helps. It does. It helps. So I really encourage that. Number 8, find a counselor to help you process the grief. You need to find a counselor. I mean, my wife and I, we were able to get some support to really understand. For her in particular, there's a lot of groups out there for women. Guys, sometimes we need help too. So if you're struggling, find a counselor, because they can really help you walk through this, help you grow together. There's specific there's specific groups out there for families that have lost, gone through this type of hurt. And they helped my wife for a few times. Now, at some point, she got to where she couldn't go to those meetings anymore because they just kept bringing up too bad of memories. Now, she couldn't really push through it. But initially, they were really helpful for her to process. Our number 9, share. You need to share your grief and let others know, like your church family. Because when you do, that's going to be opportunities for people to love on you. And you need a lot of love when you're going through grief. You're also going to find out that 1 in 4 stat that I was telling you guys about, you're going to find out more and more people have dealt with this than you realize. People came to us that we had no idea had struggled like this and shared stories and just heartbreaking stuff, but they came out the woodworks. They were really encouraging. Some of the letters, I mean, our church, one of our brothers in the church made us a box, beautiful little wooden box, and had these prayer cards in it from all these different prayers that people hand wrote. And I'll tell you, they're just some of the most beautiful, impactful things we've ever gotten. And that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't shared, and we weren't connected with a church. So again, this is not a tip, but I mean, guys, if you're not part of a local church, what is wrong with you? Seriously, find a local church. You need a church to help you in so many areas. Like when life happens, You have your family, but then you have your church family. And your church family is going to help carry you too. So I mean, meal trains. I remember it felt like 2 months. We had food showing up, and it was a blessing. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't feel like cooking. I just wanted to just mope, just be. It was literally. I didn't want to do anything like that, and the church took the stress off of us because they just loved on us, and we're part of a Southern Baptist church, and Southern Baptists, we love to love on people with food, and nothing wrong with that, but that was good. So share your grief. And again, got to give a special shout out to Pleasant Grove Baptist Church where we serve, and the pastors, Pastor David and Pastor Scott, Pastor Corey, the people that are there that are serving. It's unbelievable the love that we felt and the way they carried us through that. And we even have a little memorial thing for Faith that's in the church. But it's really awesome. So share your grief. And the last tip that I got, guys, trust God. Just trust God and go to him in prayer. You got to trust him. So many times, guys, it can be like you get in these Job-like moments. You just want to say, you know what? I'm done. Guys, you can't. In those moments, that friction, that's where you get stronger. It's through those moments that led me to taking some financial planning courses, that led me to starting a little financial coaching business, and that ultimately led me to the Lion Within Us. You never know the steps that lie ahead. You just have to be willing to take them and trust that God's going to be there for you. Standing here recording this right now, it's surreal. I can't even believe that there's a podcast that people actually want or will listen to it. But the thought that this may encourage or uplift a brother out there, unreal. Trust God and pray. Have that prayer life constantly. My Bible is right here right now. My hand is literally touching it. Get in the Word. Let the Word penetrate and soak into you. Because in those moments, those Job-like moments, that's all you got. You know what? That's enough. That's enough. So guys, what happened next? There's always what happened next. Well, we wanted to have a baby. We did. So we processed, we took some time with Faith, after Faith, and my wife healed. Her body had to heal. She literally had a baby, right? But just like any mothers out there, that takes some time for healing, and we decided to, we won't trust God, and we leaned in, and we got pregnant, and so we got pregnant, and I went to every doctor's visit. We did all the same rituals, but I can tell you what, you talk about intense moments. My wife probably is smiling as she's listening to this right now. Your host of the Lion Within Us, Chris, here, and those initial meetings, pretty much every meeting we had with the doctors when my wife was pregnant, our last time, it was an intense drill sergeant moment because I was asking a lot of questions. I wanted feedback. I wanted data. The engineer came out. I was pressing them to see what we could do. And you know what? Looking back now, I wasn't trusting God. I had a lot of moments where I wasn't trusting. I was trying to force that outcome. But I do remember at some point in the pregnancy, I just my wife said, you got to get this up. You're stressing yourself. If it happens and we can hold our baby, then that's a blessing. But we got to trust God. And so that's what we did. We trusted him. They did the extra care, and tried some new things just to help with my wife, because there really wasn't anything they found. There's nothing. Faith was just one of those things. And so we trusted, and then we went to the hospital on August 20th. So my oldest daughter was born on August 19th. We had her birthday. We celebrated her birthday. We went to the hospital the next morning on the 20th to be induced. And on August 21st, we were blessed, and we got to hear our baby cry. And our little baby Lily Grace. She joined the family on August 21st, 2021, and has been a blessing. And I just remember some of the nurses that delivered Faith were actually in there, and just tears of joy that just poured all over that baby when she was born. And to hear her cry and to watch her cry, I was so excited to see a baby cry. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? But just the delivery room wasn't quiet anymore. And it was wonderful. And I just remember being there with her and Lily, and she had some jaundice, so we had to stay in the hospital a few extra days. So it was stressful getting out. But I just remember that moment when we came home and we had that baby, and our daughters got to come out and meet their sister. It was unreal, guys. It was just that moment of redemption. And my wife told me from the time when we got pregnant, she said, God has given me a peace. I said, what about what? She says, I have a peace that he's trying to tell me that September will be, the redemption. We will be redeemed. Well, our daughter was due actually in September. They delivered her a few weeks early because of what had happened with Faith, but her due date was actually the very first week of September. And I remember September 2021, not that long ago, probably one of the best months of my life. Having a newborn. And I can tell you one thing, for Becca and I, we don't stress over crying babies or getting up or, things that you get stressed out about for new parents. We just don't. And I can only attribute that to the pain we went through together in that quiet delivery room. That's not there. We have our little girl, and we were able to open that nursery up, and we redid some things in there to make Lily's room her room. But the joy and guys, I know not if you guys are listening, and some of you guys haven't got that point yet. And I don't want to discourage you. I just want to encourage you to keep trusting God. Because we didn't know. We didn't know we were going to make it to the finish line. And we had made it to the goal line with Faith, and it happened. So it is a blessing. Lily's just a beautiful little girl, 8 months old. For by now, when this drops, she'll be 9 months old. And just a wonderful blessing. And guys, got some other news for us for the lines out there. I want to share this with you. So in November, we're expecting another one. So we're back in that process right now of praying. I'll ask. I'm not ashamed. I will ask everyone out there listening. I covet your prayers between now and November, when our baby will prayerfully be born. There's a lot of prayers that have to happen. We're doing the best we can to stay healthy and to do what we can to get to that delivery room. But at the end of the day, as a man, there's nothing I can do other than support, be there for my wife, help with the kids, help try to make things as less stressful as possible. But at the end of the day, it's in his hands, and there's no better hands to be in. So guys, I pray that a message like this is helpful. I can tell you this is the hardest message I've ever had to deliver. And I don't know how it helps you guys, but I would encourage you this. If this helps, or if you want to talk, hit us up. Go to the linewithin.us. There's ways to contact us right there on the webpage. Send us a note. Hit me up. You can send an email to support@thelinewithin.us, and I will answer. I'll respond to you. If you want to set up a call and talk about something, if you're struggling with this, and your wife is, let me know. If all I do is sit and pray with you for a few minutes, I'll do it. I believe in the power of prayer. And I believe that as brothers, we need to pray for each other and with each other. So I highly encourage you guys, share this episode out. If it meant anything at all, share it out. If it didn't, that's fine. I get it. Check out the next podcast. I'm sure it's probably great. But if this resonated, share this with a brother. Because maybe he and his wife need to hear this together. Maybe they need to sit down and listen And just know, if anything, just know they're not alone. They're not alone. I've been in the hospital after the 9-week miscarriage for DNC. I know how it feels to walk out with your wife with that. I've been in the hospital in the quiet delivery room, and I know how it feels to walk out of that hospital with an empty car seat. I would love to pray with you to help you through this, to at least try to be an encouragement to lift you up. So again, our question of the week: how do you respond to God in your Job-like moments? How do you respond to God in those Job-like moments? Guys, I pray that this helps you. I pray that this blesses you. Again, share this with others. I'd love it if you gave a rating and review. That means the world. I'd love it if you joined the Lion's Den. It's free. Go check out the website, thelionwithin.us. Check out our Bible study. I wrote that Bible study, but after Faith, before Lily, it was in that time. So I spent a lot of time in the Word, writing that Bible study. We're working on resources and courses and things like that. There's blogs out there right now. There's a blog out on being, what to look for a stronger man's group, to build that group up. Love your feedback on that kind of stuff. I got good feedback that you guys like some of the solo stuff. So I'm going to try to do some of that stuff more and more. But again, the Lion Within Us is not about Chris. And I've prayed to the Lord, if it ever is, shut it down. Shut it down. The Lion Within Us is all about glorifying Him and helping you grow to be the leader you're predestined to be. Now, if we're doing it and we're doing that right, I feel like God's going to bless us, and He has been blessing us. You guys are listening. You're out there. And I can't thank you enough. But no, it's not me. It's not me. It's all for Him. It's all for Him. So guys, I pray for each and every one of you. Thank you again. Go check out the linewithin.us for all the stuff out there, for ways to connect with us and me and talk. I hope you have a great day. Hope you enjoyed this message. Now go out and unleash the lion within.